Mike Phillips down here, 3D Garage in sunny Stuart, Florida. This is a 1968 Dodge Charger. It's got a aftermarket 392 Hemi, a modern Hemi in it. It's actually an incredibly nice build. The thing about it is though, is the owner would like to get a ceramic coating put onto it, and it has minor swirls and scratches, and I've already done the baggy test. It needs to be mechanically decontaminated. So I'm going to walk through the steps I would use to take this car to a true show car finish with a ceramic coating. And for the ceramic coating, I'm going to be showing you how to install the new 3D Graphene Infused ceramic coating, which not only does it impart this super high gloss and almost glassy look, it leaves the paint feeling slippery, which is a nice feature that everybody loves. Most coatings leave the paint feeling rubbery or tacky. So what you want in a finish like this is you want it to be slippery, so anytime the owner down the road is wiping it to get dust off, the finish is already slippery and the towel won't drag. So it's a nice feature about that coating. But stay tuned as I walk through the process of how I would tackle this car. So the first thing I did to this car was I went ahead and I did a waterless wash, got all the loose dirt, dust off. The next thing I did was the baggy test. Okay, the baggy test, what it did is it told me that the paint is contaminated. And to do the baggy test, basically you just want to put a clean sandwich baggie on your hand and then fill the paint. Now, paint in excellent condition should feel completely smooth, like a piece of glass, a new glass. When I fill this paint, I feel little bumps everywhere. So what that tells me is this paint is contaminated. And what the baggy does is it heightens your sense, because if I fill this same section with my hand, it feels smooth, like there's no problem. But the baggy test, what it does is it reveals what's really taking place at the surface level. Okay, so when you buy one of these, this is the 3D detailing clay towel, and it works like clay, and in that both clay and this polymerized rubber surface have a pulverized abrasive in there. Kind of think of like powdered sugar. And a lot of people think the way detailing clay works is because it's kind of sticky, it's clay. When you rub it over the paint, it pulls contaminants off. And it probably does take some contaminants off, but the way it actually works is the abrasive works like sandpaper. It kind of abrades the contaminants off. Now the detailing clay towel works the same way, only there's a pulverized abrasive in this polymerized rubber. So when you rub this over the paint, it kind of abrades the contaminants off. The difference between clay and the detailing clay towel is the clay is going to get loaded up full of contaminants, and at some point you're going to throw it away. And if you ever drop it, you for sure want to throw it away, because if any single little particle of something sharp and pokey or abrasive gets in there and you start rubbing that over your paint, you're going to hate yourself, because now you got to come back and take all those scratches out. Now when you pull one of these out and they're brand new, the first thing you want to do is you want to break it in on the glass. And the reason you break it in on the glass is because it's not going to scratch the glass. And there's just from the manufacturing process, there's surface irregularities in the polymerized rubber. So by just taking and rubbing this over the glass, okay, you kind of break in that rubber surface to make it more gentle. It'll still do its job, it just will be smoother and broke in, basically. And then at this point, I would actually take this over to my utility sink and wash this. Now, besides claying the paint, you also want to clay the glass. And think about it. If there are airborne contaminants and they're landing on the paint and bonding to the point where they won't wash off, and that's why you're going to clay, if they land on the paint, they land on the glass too. So you want to clay both the glass and the paint, and actually any smooth hard surface. So the outside of this mirror, anything, plastic headlights, if it's smooth and hard, you want to clay it, because if the hood's contaminated, the roof's contaminated, the glass is contaminated, probably everything's contaminated. Now one of the things I do is I like to take a Sharpie marker and I like to divide this into 4 quadrants, and that way when I fold this over, I can start using quadrant 1. And I can use this until I can tell that it's actually worn out. It's no longer removing defects. If you don't mark the towel, there's no way you would ever know which side of the towel you were using, because even though I broke it in up here on the window like this, you don't use it like that when you're claying paint. It just doesn't work. What you want to do is actually fold it 4 ways, take your clamp, you know, your thumb and your finger, clamp the edges, spray down your clay lube, and then holding the towel, you can move the towel over the paint and mechanically decontaminate, remove the contaminants. And this also comes in handy when you do vertical sides because you're holding on to the towel so you don't drop it on the ground. Now if you do drop it, just take it over to the sink, wash it off, and you can reuse it. And when I'm done using it, I wash it off and I just hang it someplace to air dry. Anyway, that's how you do mechanical decontamination. Okay, so after I'm done using a detailing clay towel, let me just show you how I clean this to preserve it, to keep it ready for the next car. So, hand soap. I mean, you could use car wash soap, but it don't matter. All you're gonna do is just lightly scrubbing it. Get some water on there. Just come in here and just agitate it with the brush, okay? It's not rocket science. And this will get anything that's on there off in most cases, unless it's something really bad like DOT, Department of Transportation paint. Okay, then after that, rinse it. Here you can see all the numbers. That's how I mark my towels. Okay, then wring it out. And then hang it someplace. And look, I keep my utility sink clean, so this is clean. I'm always keeping everything clean. I'm a detailer. And then come in here and a couple of paper clips here. My hand's slippery. Boom. Just let it sit there and dry just like that. Anyway, that's how I take care of my detailing clay towel. And I get a ton of use out of them. Okay, so did a test spot on the 68 Charger. This is a custom base coat, clear coat paint job. For this I used 3D1. Okay, this is our hybrid compound polish with foam polishing pads. So kind of, you know, generally speaking, you got foam cutting pads, foam polishing, foam finishing, and they can be different colors, different styles, different shapes, but that's the three general categories: cutting, polishing, finishing. And the goal is to always use the least aggressive process to get the job done. So I just tried a foam polishing pad with the 3D1. This is the Flex Beast. I did 8 textbook section passes. Here is the before and after. Okay, and this car is not horribly swirled, but I'm getting ready to put a ceramic coating on it, and it's a show car. It shouldn't, okay, paint shouldn't look like this, and the whole car looks like this, okay? So here's the results from the section pass. Boom. Flawless paint. And what this tells me is, you know, I went all the way up here. You can do a fairly large section when you're using a great compound and a great tool and the right pad. But what this tells me is the paint isn't that hard, okay? So if it was hard, 8 section passes with the foam polishing pad probably wouldn't have pulled all the swirls and scratches out. If it was soft, it probably would have pulled them out with like 3 or 4 passes. But it's right in that sweet spot where you want it, you know, because as a car owner, you don't want paint that's so soft that, you know, you scratch the paint just by looking at it. And you don't want paint so hard that, you know, nobody can work on it, not even a professional detailer. So that tells me the paint on this car is right in that sweet spot, right where you want it. Not too hard, not too soft. So now that I've dialed in my test spot and I know that I can do 8 section passes with this pad, this tool, and this product, now I'll start at the roof, work my way down. So typically when you're gonna do any kind of paint correction, you wanna start at the highest parts and work your way down. So this is the roof. I've already machine polished this first quadrant, and here's a little tip. Whenever you're doing roofs, especially big cars, but this applies to trucks and SUVs too, you need to pick a starting point. Either start at the front and work this way, or start at the back and work this way, but it doesn't really make sense to like try to start in the middle and then have to go both other ways. So pick a side. I usually start in the front, work my way back, but just as a creature of habit, you know. This section I did here, my shoulders are right at 24 inches wide. It's just a tick bigger, probably 26 inches, and it goes all the way past the middle. That's a huge area to correct at one time. So a lot of people always ask, how do you get your cars detailed so fast? Well, let me just share how. This is a gear-driven orbital. Okay, it's an 8mm gear-driven orbital, and there's 0 pad stalling. Okay, so this means you can push down hard to engage the abrasives with the paint to remove the defects, and then as you finish out, then bring the pressure up. But with free spinning tools, you can't push down hard because you'll stall the pad out, and so you kind of have to go slow with them. And I got nothing against the free spinning tools, I just like to go fast. So I like the Beast for that. And then to get this done, I'm using the 3D1. And I proved on my test spot back here that 8 section passes removed all the defects. So real quick, I'm going to show you what 8 section passes look like, and I'm going to share a little technique that I use to get the job done fast. Now, here's what 3 pea-sized drops look like after the pad is broken in. And you can do the little thing where you mush the product around, but don't make this mistake. When I see guys do this, what they do is they run the polisher and they run the edge right into that pile of product. Don't do that. Just tilt it and grab that product, then spread it out, okay? You want the product trapped between your pad and the paint, not on the edge. It's okay to have some on the edge when you get into curves. I'm not gonna say that's not important, but this is something I just see guys do all the time. So tilt your pad, pick up the product. So I'm gonna knock out 8 section passes, and the technique I always teach is to count them out loud. That way you don't lose track of where you're at. And that would look like this. See that? Grab it, spread it around. Okay, so I've spread my product out, and that means I've got a uniform layer of both abrasives and lubrication. Okay, you need both to make paint look beautiful. And then I'm going to count my section passes out loud, and you can see how fast I move the polisher to do this level of paint correction. I'm pushing. See how that pad kind of flattens down? That's because I'm pushing, but you don't see any pad stalling. 1. Okay, so I just went over that section one time, counted out 1. Now here's kind of where I ended this pass. So what I want to do is overlap a little bit into it so you get what's called UMR, Uniform Material Removal. And what that means, all the swirls are removed here, 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 everywhere, because it's uniform material removal. And so when you're detailing a car, you break larger panels into smaller sections, and when you change from this section to go buff out this section, you overlap a little bit into the previous section. So that was 1. 2. 6. Okay, so there's 7, and as you can see, I'm pushing down and I'm engaging the abrasives with the paint so they take little bites out of it to level it or to remove the defects. Now for this last pass or two, I bring the pressure up because remember, I'm trying to create beauty. Polishing paint is not a, it's not a step 1, it's not a grinding process, step 1, step 2, step 3. It's an art form. We bring the elements of human care and passion. We care about what we're doing. We're trying to create beauty. So let me show you the 8th pass, less pressure. There's 8 solid section passes. Then at this point with the 3D one, you can let it sit on there if you want to. I've actually let this sit on overnight and it wiped off just as easy, but it's usually faster just to wipe off as you move around. Plus, it's a good idea when you're doing show car detailing. If this is a daily driver, that'd be another thing. But when you're doing show car detailing, it's a good idea after you buff each section to just go ahead and inspect your work and make sure there's not any deeper scratches that you just didn't get out because they were deeper. And you know, we want this thing to look perfect when we're done. That looks good to me. So now I've tackled this side and this side. I did half the hood in 2 chunks. Now I'm going to move to that side, knock out those 2. Then I'm going to come back and I'm actually going to chemically strip this with 3D wipe and put the coating on. I'm going to put a soft blanket over it. So the roof, I always knock out the roof first, then tackle everything below it. And the reason why is if I compound and polish this, if I compound this and then compound this, and I come up here and polish this, I throw splatter down here. So I just don't want to repeat steps, have to wipe off a surface twice when I could do it once. So that's why I always knock out the roof first and then do the rest of the car. But hang tight as I work through this project. I'll share some more videos. So I finished using 3D1 to machine polish the entire roof, and it looks fabulous. So the next step in order to install the 3D ceramic graphene infused coating is to prep the paint using 3D wipe. So what this process does is it removes any residual oils from 3D1, the polish, off the paint so the coating can make a proper bond. Now, it's important to do a good job because you want to get maximum longevity, maximum performance pass. Wet passes, I'm spraying an ample amount of product onto the surface. As I move this around the towel, it can dissolve the oils, loosen them, so then the towel can wipe them off. Okay, so that's the first pass. I call that the wet pass because I'm using the product heavy or wet. The next wipe is what I call the insurance wipe. This just ensures any trace residues I may have moved around with the first wipe are removed. Now for this, I'm not going to spray the product onto the paint. I'm simply going to dampen a microfiber towel. And you know what? It's easier to hold a towel if the other side, if you just give it a light mist and make that side damp. So then I would just do this, just come back and then just softly wipe. And all this does is, again, it's the insurance pass. So I do the wet pass, the insurance pass. And the insurance pass just ensures that there are no trace oils left on the surface. Okay, just like that. And then you would repeat this over the rest of the car. So normally I would chemically strip or prep the entire car at one time, then apply the coating at one time. But to keep this video on the short side, I'm just doing just one section of the hood, or the roof. Not the hood. Hood's over here. I know the difference. Please take my word for it. Okay, so the kit comes with a little foam block here. The green part is rigid, the black part is flexible, and this allows it to conform to the curve of the panel to give you uniform coverage, but also equal pressure over the entire surface area. Then just take the microfiber suede patch that comes with the kit. Then take your coating. So this is the new 3D graphene infused ceramic coating. I like to give it a shake first. Apply some directly onto the applicator. And when I'm first starting out, I usually tend to put a little on heavy or wet because everything's dry and it's going to soak up a little bit of it. And after that, then it's just a few drops as you work around the car and do panel by panel. Now this, and let me just get this going. I'd like to make an X pattern and then use a cross. The X pattern is just kind of spread the product out, then a crosshatch pattern to evenly spread it out over the entire surface. Then the thing about this is just to take your time using a crosshatch pattern and lay down a nice uniform coat of the graphene infused ceramic coating. And normally, just for consistency, I will go over a section 4 times just to make sure every square inch or square millimeter of paint has coating on it. So this would be my 4th time. And then when I'm working on a car, I try to use visual indicators that are on the car to help me to determine my panel side. So What you can't see over here is here's the window, and then here is the side of the window. That side comes right here, so I covered from here to here, and even though there's no visual indicator or separation because this is just a huge flat flowing panel, there is one on the side that I can look at and I can gauge where I'm at. Then you want to wait 30 seconds, you know, and it's kind of silly to get a stopwatch or take your phone. So usually what I do is I just count in my head real slowly to 20 seconds, because by the time I've put my applicator block down, 10 seconds has gone by. So count out to like 20, 1, 2, 3. By the time you're done, 30 seconds have gone by. Then go ahead and just come back and level the coating. So a lot of people think at this step I'm wiping the coating off. That's not really true. I am to some degree, but the first thing I'm doing is I'm leveling it. So there's different quantities of coating sitting on that surface. A lot of times in the right light you can see it. You'll see a rainbow effect. And but first you're spreading it. And then you are, as you continue to wipe, you're wiping any excess off so you don't leave behind any high spots. And then again, it's always a good idea to have a swirl finder light. This coating sets up like concrete. If you don't get it off, you will have to polish it off. Don't ask me how I know. Anyway, flawless. There's no high spots anywhere. It has a nice uniform appearance. And from this point on, I would go to the next step and I'd overlap a little bit into the previous step, then go to the other side. Now here's a technique tip. When you go to the other side, it's real easy to on a tall car like this or a large roof like this to not go far enough. So make sure you always try to remember the center point. And the easy way to find the center point is here's the rear view mirror. So that's center. So just know where the rear view mirror is. You can even put a piece of tape here and just make sure when you do both sides, you go past it a little bit to make sure uniform coverage, uniform protection, uniform glassy appearance. And then if you want to, about 30 minutes, you can come back and apply a second layer. This is a layerable coating, but you want to give the first coating about 30 minutes to set up and then come back and put the second layer down. And that's all there is to applying the new 3D graphene infused ceramic coating. Hey, Mike Phillips down here, 3D Garage. This is a 1968 Dodge Charger, and I am now finished with it, and I will let you be the judge as what you think. But this has been through a multiple step paint correction process. Washing, claying, compounding, polishing, panel prep, and then the new 3D graphene infused ceramic coating. Everything's been coated, tail lights, the matte finish, the license plate. She really came out good. And let me show you the motor here real quick. And then I'll show you everything it took to get these results. Also, something I noticed was, I think the front passenger side fender's been repainted. Here we go. So it's got a modern 392 Hemi engine, but just look how clean and sanitary everything is. The install, it looks factory. It's so nice. And one thing I like about old Detroit iron is just how solid they sound. This is truly an iconic muscle car. It's got that stance that just says, don't mess with me. Okay, here's what I used. To polish out the glass, the new 3D glass polish, felt pad, interface pad, Flex PE14 cordless rotary. For the compounding step, the 3D extra cut wool pad, 8-inch Flex PE14 cordless rotary. If you're gonna use wool, get a spur. For the polishing, the Flex Beast, you can tell by the cast iron head, this is the original 8mm gear-driven orbital polisher. For cutting, 3D 510, cuts hard, clear coats fast. For polishing, 3D 1. Let's count the pads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pads to do show car detailing. And I always tell people this, when I see other guys' works, they might look good, but you gotta, if you're using foam, you need more than 1 or 2 pads to do the job right. Beat it up on all the glass, on the rims, 3D wipe to prep the paint after compounding and polishing, the new 3D ceramic graphene infused coating, and then magic blue tire dressing. Crappy little pad there to put the tire dressing on. Now I always take a terry cloth towel and re-wipe the tire so there's nothing liquid or gooey on the surface, so nothing slings off. I hear about people say, oh, I don't like tire dressings that sling off. Well, wipe the excess off and you won't have tire sling. Kind of common sense. Anyway, that's what it took, that and a lot of microfiber towels. And I'm always trying to teach guys, you've got to keep your towels from getting contaminated. So get a clean bucket or a laundry hamper or something. And after you use a towel in the car, it goes to the bucket, from the bucket to the washer, from the washer to the dryer, then clean a table off, fold them, and put them away. Anyway, it was a real honor to work on this. Last week I had a 2023 torch red Corvette Z06. So the Corvette is the modern muscle car, and this is the iconic classic muscle car. So it's fun to work on, a wide spectrum of cars, new stuff, old stuff. But to be honest, I really prefer to work on the old stuff, and for one real simple reason. Instead of plastic trim, they have metal trim, okay? And instead of taping it off to protect it like you would plastic trim, you just run the polisher over it. It removes the This has all been machine polished, all of it. I machine polish it as I work on the car. And you can actually see your pads turn gray as they pull the tarnish and the oxidation off. But it gives the entire car just that bling look. In fact, the front bumper's been machine polished and coated. Anyway, you can get all these products up at 3dproducts.com.